BC's Supreme Court could bring an end today to the very public dispute involving one of Canada's biggest business families. They will decide if Edward Rogers, the courts will, the son of late founder Ted Rogers, had the power to make changes to the board with just a written consent. CBC's Susanna De Silva is tracking developments live from Vancouver. I'm watching this story. The country is. What's happening there, Susanna?
Well, we should, at the end of today, know who's actually in charge of Rogers Communications because, of course, keep in mind that right now there are two boards and two chairmen who all say that they are in control of the company. Now, Edward Rogers is hoping that the court today will say that he is the one rightfully in charge. So to take a step back to how the family drama has ended up in court today, let's remind us how we actually got to this point. So Edward Rogers was the chair of the board until he was kicked off the board by that board, which includes his mother and his sisters, for plotting to replace the CEO of the company. But he was not done. Because of the governance structure of Rogers Communications, he's also in charge of the family trust. That trust has 97.5% of the voting shares. So in that capacity, Edward Rogers felt he had the capability to fire 5 members of the board, replace them with 5 of his choosing, and make himself chair of the board once again. Hence 2 boards, 2 chairmen, not clear who's in control right now. So the judge will decide on that. His family is saying that what he did was not proper, that it went against the governance rules as laid out by Ted Rogers, that was not the process to be able to make changes like that. So we will see what the judge decides today. She said she would make a decision. The hearing was only on Monday, but she said she understood the urgency because, of course, we are talking about one of Canada's biggest telecommunications companies.
I know you're watching. We'll talk again. CBC's Susanna De Silva in Vancouver, and we'll stick with this story for a bit. My next guest has been closely following this case. Our Chase team has reached Richard Leblanc in Toronto. He is a professor of governance, law, and ethics at York University. Richard, I say the word ethics and governance with kind of tongue-in-cheek here. How are you watching all of this?
Well, you did a pretty good job in your lead-up. We will see if Rogers is a one-man corporation or whether it has effective governance. Mr. Edward Rogers is arguing that he has a right to do this under the articles, and he's relying on Article 3.4. Rogers and the family members are arguing it's a little more complicated than that, and it's not good governance, and it goes against the wishes of Ted Rogers. And I would agree. So we will see what happens at 5 o'clock.
There's a crucial question that the Supreme Court is looking at. And what would that be? Is it whether Edward had the power to do what he did?
Yes. Edward wants it to be very narrow. I have this authority and I'm exercising it. Rogers says it's very broad. And in fact, this is not good governance. It's unprecedented. And part of the problem, Susanna, is the act in British Columbia. It's unlike any other act in Canada that permits a resolution in lieu of a shareholder meeting. So the family is arguing that we should have a shareholder meeting. And I, as a governance expert, agree that, of course, you should have a shareholder meeting. And there should be regular rotation of the chairship. And there should be earnest consultation, none of which have happened. They're also arguing, using Supreme Court cases, that the judge should look at these intentions of Mr. Rogers and of good governance. So we will see how the judge rules.
Yeah, one of the things I've been watching closely as well is the sort of dynamics of all of this. I don't know about you, Richard, but my kids have been raised with that expression, family first. What happened here? What happened to family? Edward's mother, his 2 sisters sit on that board. They're at each other's throats. I just don't get it.
Susanna, this has been likened to succession, but I think this is Canadian succession. This is Canadian succession on steroids. This Rogers board is really not ready to govern, regardless of what the judge says today. It is infighting. It has even compromised the Shaw merger. Bellis and Tell have argued to the CRTC that Rogers is unfit. These are my words, but I think that's the spirit. They're unfit to govern. And the regulator has a public duty to make sure, like at 5 o'clock, if Edward Rogers is running the show, is this really what the CRTC will allow and the competition tribunal? So I think the implications are significant for Rogers on this judgment. Rogers really has to repair this board. I've been in the business 25 years. I've never seen a board this fractured ever.
Wow. And they have their finger in telecoms, media, sport, and now with this dysfunction on the board, and as you mentioned, the Shaw Communications, that bid for their rival, what is the most important thing that the shareholders will be watching for here?
Well, the shareholders, their price has been depressed, and Rogers is always undertraded. It's a dual class share structure. We pay some of the highest cell phone rates in the world.
No
media
kidding.
Media is very concentrated. So this is not just about family members, directors, and senior management. This is about 10 million Canadian customers. This is about retail shareholders who hold 70% of Rogers shares. So the stakeholders here are very important. This is also about public regulators, possibly even stepping in, depending on what the ruling is later today, in the public interest. I've never seen chaos and commotion like this ever. So there are more shoes to drop here, and I think in any event, Rogers has a lot of rifts to heal, and some of them may not be healable. These are entrenched, visceral dislike by family members.
And will there be a series? You betcha.
That's a
Where
very good
will
question.
it air?
CBC, and it'll be available for all just on the basis of what's been happening over the last month. Your script couldn't be better.
Absolutely. Richard, great to talk to you. You be well, okay?
My pleasure, Suhana.
Richard Leblanc in Toronto. He's a professor of governance, law, and ethics at York University.